So welcome to the second part of this video. In this part, I'm going to show you all my allies that I use currently, and then I'm going to show you a bunch of builds that I play for PvE and PvP. Enjoy. So I want to first show you the allies that I play. I have these here on Evernight in total. There are mostly all gold traceries, but I mean, as you can see, it's like how much 9 allies. It's quite hard to keep up with the grind there, but man, it is what it is. I have that also on Arkenstone, so you can multiply this by 2. But anyway, the way how I organize allies is that I try to obviously keep them as low number as possible. So for my damage allies, everything that has to do with damage are these 5 here. This is for like PvP, this is for PvE. It works for both. Some small adjustments can be made. So these are all my damage type allies. The way how I organize them is the following. This one here on the left side, this is a staff that I can share with all of those 4 here, which are books. So whatever situation or build I'm playing, I just swap my book. The staff can be used for all of them. And the staff is quite the base, as you can see. We usually play the heraldry of the Blazing Eagle for the fire type damage. Damage over time is what you should have always on Loremaster. It's your main damage source. It takes account of like 70% of your DPS for like single target damage. AoE a little bit less, but it's mainly damage over time that you do, so you should for sure have both of these traceries on your weapon. I put a bunch of other traceries here that increase skills that are shared across all builds that I use, like Sticky Gourd is usually always in a DPS build. Lightning Storm Damage is usually in a DPS build. Of course, Lightning Skill, Critical Chance, everything related to Ember, this is your main DPS source. And then also, more important for like PvE, is maybe the finesse rate or the resistance rate that you decrease. I play with skill induction on the staff. For me, skill induction, casting faster is usually the key to victory. So in PvP, you know. So yeah, the faster you cast, the better you can play, in my opinion. The first book here, this one here is my PvP book. This is now optimized for my favorite build, red yellow, that I'm going to show you. We have here the Blazing Eagle. We play with skill induction, healing over time for the water lore, and max or base moral multiplier for more HP. Since this is a red type of build, I put into this book Nature's Fury skill damage and Go to War. Since it's also yellowish, we have here Fire Lore debuff magnitude and Signs of Power duration. These two with the vitality is really just for like having more moral. If you want to play red-blue, there's a few adjustments you want to make. You want, for example, to remove like the Signs of Power, replace it with Inner Flame base healing, because in blue you actually have a heal called Inner Flame. You can replace maybe the Power Restored, not maybe, you should for sure replace Power Restored for pet attack duration, because your pet will be a main source of damage. In this red-yellow build, I don't play with pets, so I don't need any pet damage attack duration, but you for sure want to have this Power Restore replaced with pet attack duration if you play with a pet. So make sure that you have that in your allies. The second book is my let me check. This is my my parse book. This is what I use for single target parse in PvE. Maybe not much to tell here, but if you want, go for it. This one here, the third book, is quite important. This is my AoE book or my PvE book, but mainly I use this in PvE or in PvP when I'm about to need to do like AoE. For example, you're in a keep, you're about to zerg like another zerg or something. You want to gear this and just go for that area effect target count and area effect damage. Just bombing in some more like end damage, Nature's Fury, and Lightning Storm. Here important, we're going to switch to the Ascended Lightning Word of Craft, because here now lightning damage will become dominant with the Lightning Storm and Storm lore. Like also in PvE important when you have the 4-set red LM bonus that turns your power drain into like an AoE damage skill. This is also lightning damage, so you want to for sure buff that for PvE. The last book here, this is quite a special one. I use this for yellow red, so a support build where you also have a bunch of damage sprinkled in, and this is the book that I use for that. So you will see a lot of damage word of powers. You will see the heraldry with Blazing Eagle, but here these traits are here mainly is for yellow line, you know, like the ones that you really need, like the heal, the fire lore, the signs of power, and the debuff resistance. Here we also have ascendant lightning for the purpose of, you know, all the lightning skills that do area damage. So this is my allies for damage. You can just have one staff, in my opinion, and swap around these books for whatever build you play, and obviously makes it a bit more easier to handle all these allies than on Loremaster, because as you can see, there is many that you can have. The last 4 allies that I want to show you is for yellow, blue especially, like support line, and we have here 2 staffs, this and this one, and 2 books. So basically those are 2 sets. The 2 allies on the left is a set, and the 2 allies on the right is a set. This one here is my red, sorry, you can see it because of the picture here. This is my main yellow-blue set, you know, like, it's the goal of this is to gain stats from, like, traceries, for example, like, you don't really care about, like, stat strike damage, but I do care about the finesse rating you get on it. The same goes for, like, pet moral. I don't really care about my pet moral, but I do care about the vitality that I get from this tracery. I play here usually with ranged healing extension. You know, sometimes it's quite a pain, let's say boss 3 in the new raids, that you cannot reach the tank with water lore, or you cannot reach the boss for like a quick wind lore to renew all your stuff. Was also quite good for Emil. The book here plays with these induction, reduction and all that stuff, ancient craft duration, like the usual like yellow line traceries that you want. The second here on the side, this set here is for healing. It's what I sometimes use for like boss 1 or boss 2 in the new raids. It's like a healing set, you know. I use this very rarely, but I was playing around a bit with some healing set, and this is what I'm using. Important here is the healing over time. Traceries is like 95% of your entire HPS is really like healing over time, so HOTS. And yeah, this is how I do it. Swap now to my builds that I play, and I'm gonna start with my favorite one at the moment, and this is now the PvP version. In general, red and then yellow, this is at the moment what I love to play the most. I play this without pets, I play this without pots, without wisdom of the council in sparse, and it honestly makes it quite balanced with my skill level against a good reaver. Like, if I would use everything, it's just not a challenge, to be honest. But having no pet here, this build enables it. It has all the cool stuff from the red line, like you can stack dots, you know, you can even stack them harder with this fend them off buff that you receive when you use your staff strike skill. And you get all those nice debuffs from yellow line, you get the lores, you get the lore modifiers, you get more healing from water lore, incoming healing stack. And then very important are these stun duration and grace periods. This is insanely good for PvE and very good for PvP, having your stuns increased in dazes. Like sometimes you can lock down entire creeps when they have their brand off for like seconds. It's just too funny sometimes, this build. The key in this build is you get all of these debuffs, like those here are situational. You have your lores, you know, you have your signs of power, and this is obviously what you should use. And also bit mask, like that they don't remove the critical hit chance, you know. But fire lore, frost lore, and all those mods are very important. This is like why you play this build, are these debuffs that you can put on the target. If you play a Reaver, I suggest that you go with the cool off modifier, like mischance, in my opinion, is probably the best against a Reaver. You know, missing 10% of their hits is sometimes huge if they miss like an impale or something. Attack duration, especially skill induction, is really good against like BAs when they cost slower. And also against BAs, probably the best is range damage. And this is achieved if you use a lightning skill after you put the lore on the target. And I mean, as you can see, like minus 50% range damage, this is obviously really strong. And this is for times when you want to heal up quickly. Another key in this build are all your CC abilities. You have like 4 stuns. You have 1 root, blinding flash, I forgot Bane Flare. And you have like 2 dazes that you can also reset with Call to Valar. So, and those are all modified, like the dazes and the stuns with the yellow treats. Like Your roots and dazes will be much more strong with firm grasp, with the grace period duration, and your stuns are just naturally stronger with this stun duration increase. So this is another thing why you want to play this build or all CCs, so make use of them, of course. In the third part of this video series, I will then also give some tips on how to apply these skills and lore master things more efficiently, of course. And this is the allies I play for this build. I have here also the PvE version for this build. This is what I play for 3-man. It's insanely fun to play. Like you can pull with a tank like 9 to 10 enemies, perma lock them and just nuke them away with your red LM damage. You also have here like the Ember spreads traded. The Lightning Storm is fully buffed, and yeah, that's pretty much it, man. It's a really fun build to play in PvE. The next build I'm gonna show you is purely for PvP. It is a red-blue build. This one you want to play with a pet, of course, you know, like you go deep into blue here for the pet's benefits. This is the allies I would use for that. Here, as I mentioned during the ally section, you want to remove these red line, like you want to remove stuff like maybe power restored and replace it with pet attack duration. Also, you can remove the ends go to war and replace it with like inner flame base healing or the signs of power. So here we would have to make some adjustment, but I don't really play this build anymore. I still have it, you know, but if you want to maximize your allies, this is what you should do. Anyway, the advantage in this build is, well, you have to play it with a pet. You can also play the other one with a pet, but as I've said, I'm kind of nerfing myself a bit to make it more fun. But here you want to play with pet for the reason of the pet doing a lot of damage. You gain in this build a lot of cool things, like kind of has fallen out, but you get inner flame. This is a heal and also boosts your damage, fire and lightning damage. So you need to use this before you set up a big burst with all your big damage skills. The pet heals you when you receive a crit hit, but for that the pet needs to be out. Otherwise you don't get healed, but you get like a cooldown. So I want to show you quickly the impact of this trait maxed out in PvP. It is one of the reasons why blue LMs seem to have such a huge sustain. It's just getting a 10% heal every time they get a critical hit every like 10 seconds. The problem with that is if your pet isn't out, you don't really get a heal, but you get a cooldown on this effect. Now let's see if this wolf's gonna crit a hit on me. Then you will see a debuff popping up. So now I received the critical hit. And this here goes on cooldown now. As you can see, it's a 15-second cooldown. In the heal panel, I only got water lore. I didn't really get a loyalty heal. Now we're going to repeat this with a pet out. I received this heal here, loyalty 61k. And I mean, just for a pet, just for getting a critical hit, getting a 61k heal, this is quite a lot. And over a fight of 1 minute, we're speaking here of a heal of 240k. That can even crit, so yeah, you can... This is really like a big heal in blue line, and you should always have this tracked, this debuff, and have a pet out when it's up. If you don't have a pet out, you're just gonna waste a 60+ heal on you with like this HP pool. Very important tip. Concerning pets, so there is really 2 pets in PvP that really make sense to use for damage. It's the Bog Lurker. You can park him outside like this. And then if you spar or find someone, the Bog Lurker will just provide about 2 to 3k on like of DPS on the target. So it's like just like an auto attack that is added to your DPS pool, which is quite strong. If you have a creep player that knows about this and going to kill your pet, you always have to dismiss it before it dies. If you play a Reaver and they kill a pet, they get a proc, so they can use one of their special abilities. You have to always dismiss it. If you have someone that goes for your pets, there is still a way to use your pets, and in this situation, I personally would use the Lynx. So if you don't have any big damage skill up, you use the Lynx. Lynx comes out, provides some big damage until they die, so you should always track the health of your pet. If it's about to die, you just dismiss it, and you just resummon it again for another like strike on the target. So use it as some sort of like damage skill instead of as a pet that is always out there doing their job. Another key to this build is Inner Flame. For this you need a pet out. You can channel it, and it will not only heal you, but it will also stack up a 20-second damage buff on you, as you can see here. So fire type and lightning type damage. You should always wait until you use skills like Nature's Fury, Lightning Strike, Lightning Storm, sorry, and I don't know, not really end kind of sucks, but those two should always be used in harmony with this here to maximize their damage. At the same time, you should always have debuffs up. You should have Windlore stacked, ideally tier 3. You should have Ancient Croft out. You should have them in tar. And this is when you maximize the damage of all these skills, when you apply them with Inner Flame. So make sure that you don't just waste this at the start for no reason. We come to the next build. And this is probably what LMs play the most at the moment in the Moors, which is blue-red. And yeah, I'm gonna also show you how you properly play this here. So on top of the damage that you can do with Ember, by the way, like that damage still exists in blue-red. Also Gourd and Fierce Lightning is in there too, so that's what most LMs forget, to also use that type of damage source. You have on top of that, this is probably your strongest burst skill, is the Murder of Crows, paired with like insane just pet damage. The pet damage in blue is about 30-40% stronger than in red or like yellow. So this is really like adding on top of the red capabilities that you have. So still the same rules applies as for red-blue. Before you use your big damage skills, that would be Murder of Crows and Lightning Storm, you want to debuff the target fully. Like there is no reason in using this skill without having debuffs on the target. You want to have Windlore on it. You want to have the Rand from Ancient Croft. And also, of course, you want to have them in tar. That reduces their tactic mitigation even further by 10%. Then, before you use crows, the crow dot, one of them dot is a red debuff. And it's just too easy for a creep to use a pot and remove it. You want to pull the bear out, use this skill here, Shatter Arms, will put a red debuff on him, and then you use the crow with the Bog Lurker. The Bog Lurker gives you, in blue, an increased tactical damage. So this will also increase the damage of your crow dots. So this is when you want to use it. This is how you use crows. The problem with most blue lore masters is that they forget that they can still stack a tier 4 Ember on the target. And the Ember, if you use it together with your links, that gives you a 15% damage over time buff, so all your dots gonna get stronger. That Ember will be almost as strong as in the red line, so there's no reason to not stack up this Ember to tier 4, even in blue, like this. I just showed you a setup where you need to like stack up Windlore and all that stuff on the target. Well, during the time you stack up your Windlore, you can also stack up your Ember, before you even pull out the Crow combo. So make sure that this Ember is also on the target. That's a big dot that you should not miss out. Next build I'm gonna show you is my support spec, or the yellow-blue spec. When you pair yellow with blue, you mainly wanna focus on some sort of sustain builds. That also goes for your gear, so you wanna have like sustain, mids, you wanna have, of course, finesse, you wanna have a lot of vitality, moral, just to withstand big hits and survive them. So the point of this is just stack mids and apply debuffs with like spamming Beacon of Hope for the AoE heal. This is what I use for this. In PvP it works quite well, and yeah, this is the allies I use. You can also use heal allies in PvE if you want to do a bit more healing with Water Lore and Beacon of Hope, but of course risk taking bigger hits and maybe have less sustain. But this is what I play for sustain, or for debuffs, yellow-blue. In my opinion, every raid or every time you as Loremaster join a 6-man and bigger than that, 6 plus group, you should go into yellow. Like there is no reason to go fucking blue and spam a Murder of Crow every 2 minutes. Like nobody gives a shit. But everyone will give a shit when you can debuff an entire crate with lores and the Signs of Power and put down like this here for the minstrels. So please, if you play LM, make yourself familiar with the yellow builds when you go into a raid in PvP. In PvE, of course, it's kind of given that you go yellow in a 6 or 12 man. For a yellow Loremaster now, especially in PvP, those are the things that you should focus on. I could write you a list with like 30 items of things you can do during a fight, but this is like, that should always be the focus. First focus should be, you should always apply as fast as possible fire and frost lore on the crates. For that, Ancient Master is very, very handy. It makes you basically AoE an entire crate, like debuff them AoE. It's just too easy. In the combination with wind lore, you just spread so many embers on the target. It's insane. At the same time, you can tooltip the enemy, like the crate reaver or leader that you know is probably the rats. You can tooltip him, click him, and with target forwarding, you can stack water lore on what they're attacking. This gives the target a 5% incoming healing modifier. You can stack them up to 3 times, and this will help your main healers to keep up the target which is being focused. Then Sign of the Power, Righteousness, the stun immunity, you should mainly always have on a healer. Like in a 6-man, it's quite a no-brainer, just have it on the healer all the time, no exception. In a raid, sometimes it makes more sense to put it on the target that is being focused. So you can play this at the same time with like target forwarding and water lore. Ancient Craft is a big debuff that you should use on command with your leader or your rat in the freight. You can announce that I'm going to use Ancient Craft, or the leader can announce. This is a big like incoming damage buff basically by reducing their mids. It's like an Oathbreaker, so keep that in mind that you use this tactically and not just throw it in unless you see like there's an opportunity for you, then you throw it in. Then one thing I also do is the warding knowledge. If you want to burst like a target, it has been announced, you go up to the target. Like let's say the group wants to focus this target. You start casting and follow up the animation with the blinding flash. This will lock it down inside the warding knowledge, takes 10% more tactical damage. So basically the target will be inside this thing for like 2-3 seconds. This gives the minis more time to efficiently DPS inside this thing. So make sure that you also do that. Of course, there is some other things you can do. Like you can put air lore on the target that is being focused if it's an important target. You can put this one also into raid, or you should, you know, like another attack duration debuff. This one rather not. You can dispel corruption if like a reaver or like a orc player is going into Undying Rage. You can quickly disrupt. When people, like when a crate runs away, then, well, this is your time to shine. You have herb lore to root them. You have cracked earth to root them. You can run into like the healers, Bane Flare, all of them around you so that they can't heal for a second or two. You can Test of Will people from like insane range. You can daze them for like 51 meter if you have range extension. Tor, of course, should always be used when, you know, like when it makes sense, you know, like open field, it's quite hard, but in a keep, like you should announce that Tor lays on this spot so that the leader knows where they can like fight with like damage buffs and all that, movement buff. This one here, curing, always on the focus target, you know, usually gets a shit ton of like spider dots and reaver dots or deafy stuff. So just help with the cleansing by keeping this on cooldown as well. And yeah, sometimes you rarely have to share power, so you can also do that. Sometimes you can even pull out the bear if you have time, put on the bear debuff if you have a lot of like champs and guards. And sometimes it also doesn't hurt if you pull out the Raven to put on like the Benediction for some more tactical mitigation debuff for like the Minstrel. Next build is Yellow-Red that I mainly play in the current PvE raid, but also sometimes in the Eton Wars when, you know, like, this is the build you want to play when you don't need a lot of sustain as a Loremaster, when you can go into DPS stats and you want to do some damage. And this is the build that I play for this situation. Keys for this build, besides like the stuff I showed you before, is that you can actually do damage now. And in order to do that, your priority should be to spam like Gust of Wind on the target with Embers to spread it around. So you will basically spread around Embers. Sticky Gourd should be kept on cooldown. It will actually be your main damage source. And at the same time, when there is like the opportunity to burst, you can throw in a Lightning Storm, which actually does quite some damage if you use it at the right time. But mainly spreading Embers with Gust of Wind and Sticky Gourd on cooldown. This is your main damage source in this build for PvP. In PvP, PvE, on top of that, you know, this skill will become a different one with the red Loremaster set bonus. you should also keep that on cooldown and also spray like this dot here efficiently, called Fierce Lightning in the red line. It's kind of hard to do that without the set bonus, to be honest. You can really just do like Lightning Storm and the Storm Lore that gives you AoE Fierce Lightning, 2 dots on like 9 targets. There is one last build I want to show you, and it's another support build, but this time we not go into yellow, we rather go into blue and mix it with yellow. So this is a support spec that, yeah, gives you now some sort of like Oathbreaker with the Murder of Crow skills. I use here my support spec weapons, so just the ones for yellow. And here you have still lores that you can spray, you can put water lore. What you should do here is play with these pet buffs from this trait, the Fellowship Friends buff. So every time a pet crits, it puts a buff on your Fellowship. The one that you want to try to keep up is with the bear. So you should like resummon your bear, wait for it to crit, and it will put this buff on your Fellowship and even rate, minus 5% incoming damage. This is of course really strong, you know, for like big fights, taking 5% less damage. So have your pet bear out, maybe target like, I don't know, like a BA or something, or a war leader, and the bear will just start like auto-attacking them until it dies. Just resummon it. On top of that, you have Murder of Crows. It's honestly not stronger than the good version of Ancient Craft, but sometimes, you know, with this build that you rather want to play in like small skill situations, like 6-man at most, it can be helpful to have like a Murder of Crow if you're like missing a captain or something. So Murder of Crow with the damage, it's slightly better than an Ancient Craft. So this is the end of the second part of this 3-video series. I thank you all for watching. In the next and final part, I will show you a bunch of tips and tricks for each of these builds that yeah, you can maybe apply to your Loremaster gameplay until the rework. Thanks.